All right, what's going on, everybody? Here we are with the playoff predictions for the NFL 2025 season. I think this is going to be a really competitive playoffs. Hard to predict, honestly, in my mind. Hopefully, I've got a couple surprises here for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments, but let's just jump right in. So here we are for the NFC playoffs. Obviously, you can see at the end, I've got the Eagles going to the Super Bowl again this year, but let's break this down just a little bit. Eagles, as you guys remembered, I had going pretty good, 13-4 in the regular season, grabbing that number one seed. Then I had the Lions beating the Packers with the tiebreaker, getting the two seed with the Packers coming in with that first wild card spot. And then I have Niners and Bucks winning their division. So there's your first five seeds. Next up, I've got Commanders and Vikings taking those third or sixth and seventh playoff spots. Three teams coming out of the NFC North. I think that's super realistic. I know I'm a biased Packers fan, but I think that very well could happen. Packers Bucks matchup. I do think the Packers will win that. I think they're a better football team than the Buccaneers. I think they're a more complete team. I think their team as a whole is better. If you look at it position by position, I think the only way you could argue that the Bucks are better is with maybe their interior defensive line and their receiving core. But outside of that, I think the Packers are a better football team as a whole, and they're going to prove that when they beat the Bucks. Next, I have Niners losing to the Commanders. Commanders going out and winning another wild card game this season. And I think that could be a really special game, a fun one to watch. I don't know if that's honestly the best matchup, Commanders versus Niners. Fred Warner would probably be spying on Daniels quite a bit, and that would be a little tough for him to run around. But I do think the Commanders can go out and beat the Niners on the road in the playoffs. Next up, division matchup between the Lions and the Vikings. I've got the Lions winning that game. I think they're just a better football team until J.J. McCarthy proves me otherwise. I don't think the Vikings are going to get over that hump. Lions are a great football team. They're going to go out and win a lot of games this year, and I think they have a good chance at winning some playoff games as well. Going on to the division round, I've got the Commanders and the Eagles facing off with the Eagles winning that game. I just think the Eagles are a better football team overall. I think they're going to be able to move the ball well on the Commanders' defense that has improved over the season, but I don't think is top tier quite yet. Eagles win that game. I think they could win it, even like semi-handedly. I just think it's not a great matchup for the Commanders. However, you never know. Sometimes people can go out surprise. Commanders did last year against the Lions, and I thought a game that was, a safe bet to go after the Lions last year. Another division matchup here for the Lions versus the Packers. I know I'm a biased Packers fan, but I do have them beating the Lions here in the playoffs. I think give this Packer team a full season to figure out this new defense with Micah Parsons, and they're going to be dangerous. Especially, a full season of Love and Golden getting to know each other better, building chemistry. The rest of the young guys on this group just getting better throughout the season and this past offseason. I think come playoff time, the Packers will be a better team than the Lions, who I also think are going to be a really, really great team at this point. Lions might even start slow with those new coordinators. However, I don't think that's going to be a big factor in their performance this season outside of, what I mentioned during the NFC video with missing Ben Johnson as a play caller. I've got the Packers beating the Lions here in the division. Going on to the NFC Championship, a rematch from last year's division round, Eagles versus Packers. I've got the Eagles winning this one. I just think the Packers D-line is not strong enough to stop that run game from the Eagles. Could be a really good game. I think the Packers could throw the ball on the Eagles pretty well, especially after watching that Thursday night game. And I also did make these playoff predictions as well before, the Thursday or Friday game. So still, I'm losing confidence in the Eagles just a little bit after that opener, but let's give them a break. It was an opener. They had quite a few new pieces on defense. They're still figuring that out. I don't think that's going to be, the story for them this season. But yeah, I got the Eagles beating the Packers, going on to be NFC champions for the second year in a row. Moving on to the AFC, you can see I've got the Ravens making the Super Bowl this season, and I have them beating the Chiefs in the division round. Let's get into it. So I've got the Bills, having a great regular season in that weak defense or in that weak division, going out and getting the number one seed. Next, we've got Chiefs at 2, Ravens at 3, and Texans at 4, all winning their division. Chiefs just win close games. They didn't last night, but they just do. I don't think they're nearly as good on paper as they are on the field. So that's why I've got them, losing in that second round. But I do think the Chiefs are going to have a pretty good season overall and get to that 2 seed. Wide receiver room health is definitely in question now that Xavier Worthy is injured. To be determined on that timeline. Could be a couple weeks, could be the whole season. We just don't know yet. But let's get into these game by game. So I've got Texans versus Broncos playing in the wild card. Broncos coming out on top. I think the Broncos are a significantly better team than the Texans. And that's more of a hit on the Texans than it is praise to the Broncos. Although I do think Broncos are a really strong team this year. I just think the Texans are honestly bad for a playoff team. I think Broncos handled them easily. Then we got Ravens Bengals in a division matchup in the playoffs. I've got the Ravens beating the Bengals. I just don't think the Bengals match up that great against the Ravens purely because they're not going to be able to stop Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry in that offense. This could be a little bit of a shootout because I think Bengals have a chance to throw the ball on the Ravens if their secondary is a little bit weaker or potentially banged up. Who knows how much Jair Alexander is going to be healthy? But overall, I think the Ravens take care of business at home versus Cincinnati. Next, we've got the Chiefs versus the Chargers in Arrowhead. Chiefs win playoff games. This is a rematch from the opener where the Chargers went out and beat the Chiefs last night and looked really good. So, I didn't change anything, but it definitely made me question if the Chiefs are, going to be a little bit weaker this year, especially without Worthy, especially without Rice. I do give them the benefit of the doubt that it took them a little bit to kind of change game plans yesterday. Their offense looked a lot better in the second half, but Chiefs are a strong football team. They win close games and they win a lot of playoff games, which is why I have them beating the Chargers. Next, going on to the division round, I've got the Bills playing the Broncos. Bills taking that game, although I think this is actually a game where we could see an upset. The Broncos are a really strong team, really great defense. I think they can contain Josh Allen in that offense just a little bit. Maybe just because of the lack of weapons other than like James Cook around Josh Allen. I think, Surtain, Barron, the rest of that defense shuts down those weapons pretty good. And this could be a defensive battle, but I do have the Bills coming out on top. Then we got the Ravens and the Chiefs facing off in the division round. I've got the Ravens winning this one, and I've got them getting over the hump and getting to the playoff, the Super Bowl this year. Excuse me. But this could be one of the games of the year if these guys end up facing off. That it's always competitive when these two teams play. But I just think the Ravens are a better football team this year than the Chiefs are. I would have said the same thing last year, truthfully. I didn't think the Chiefs were nearly as good as the way they performed in the regular season or the playoffs, but they just won games. I think this is the year that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens get past the Chiefs. AFC Championship matchup between the Bills and the Ravens. I think so many people would love to see this. I think this would be a fantastic game to watch. One I'd love to go to, but I do have the Ravens winning it. I think these teams match up pretty good on paper, but I think that the Bills' offense is just a little bit weaker than the Ravens' offense. That run game for the Ravens is just elite with Lamar and Derrick Henry. I think, Zay Flowers and Bateman is a better receiver duo than what the Bills have over there. And ultimately, I think the Ravens go on and take this game, but I think it would be a really fun one to watch. Would love to see this as the AFC matchup. Super Bowl 60 matchup. I've got the Eagles versus the Ravens. This would be a fun one to watch. Two mobile quarterbacks, two beast running games. I think it could be kind of a faster game in terms of longevity of the game, like timeline. Just because these teams are going to run the ball a lot, they're going to play strong defense. Would be a fun matchup to watch. And ultimately, I have the Baltimore Ravens winning Super Bowl 60. I'd love to see Lamar Jackson go out there and get his first ring. This would be awesome. That's my prediction for the season. Ravens taking home the Lombardi, bringing it back to Baltimore. Lamar Jackson getting his first Super Bowl ring. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think of this. Let me know who you think is going to win the Super Bowl down in the comments below. But anyways, I hope you guys have a great NFL season. Hope you guys have a great week. And keep an eye out coming next week for my weekly picks. Have a good one.